Welcome back, listeners. We're diving into a huge topic today, the afterlife. We're using the Wikipedia article on afterlife as our guide, kind of a roadmap for this massive subject.
Yeah, it's a question that's intrigued people, well, probably forever.
Right. So many ideas out there about what happens after we die. I mean, where do we even begin?
Well, I think starting big picture is good. Get those big models on the table.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. So we've got reincarnation, the idea of being reborn versus like the heaven and hell kind of model,
Yeah,
right?
well, those are two of the dominant frameworks.
Mhm.
Lots of variations, of course, but good starting points.
Okay, so reincarnation. So like we die and come back as, I don't know, a cat, a tree.
Well, it depends on the tradition. But yeah, the idea is rebirth into new physical forms over and over. Big in Indian religions like Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism.
So it's not just about being reborn, it's like a cycle.
Exactly. Cycle of death and rebirth.
Yeah.
And your actions in each life matter. That's karma coming in.
Oh, so it's not just about living your best life in this one go-round.
Right. Your actions have consequences, shape your future lives. It's a continuous loop.
Yeah. Makes you think. So Buddhism, you mentioned, they have that thing about the 31 planes of existence, right?
Yeah. You could be reborn into blissful realms or, well, not so blissful ones, depending on your karma.
So you're saying I should be nicer to people just in case I get, reborn as a dung beetle or something?
Maybe. I mean, it's food for thought, right?
Yeah.
How do our actions shape not just this life, but potentially others?
It's a lot to ponder. Okay, so other side of the coin, we've got heaven and hell. Pretty straightforward, right?
Well, kind of. Common in Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, but still lots of variations.
Okay, so the basic idea is judgment after death, sent to a place of reward or punishment eternally.
Yeah, that's the general idea.
And some of those descriptions, I mean, whoa, talk about vivid.
Right, you've got paradise, Ani, torment, lots of imagery to unpack there.
Maybe we won't go too deep on the torment part today, but you said variations within those religions.
Oh, absolutely. Take Catholicism, for example. They've got the concept of purgatory.
Right, a kind of in-between place.
Yeah, a state of purification. So not straight to heaven, but a chance to work some things out, you could say.
Adds another layer to the whole divine justice idea, huh?
Definitely.
Okay, so we've got those two big models, reincarnation, heaven, hell. But now I want to get specific. Let's talk about how different cultures actually picture the afterlife. Like, what does it look like?
Sounds good to me. Where should we start?
Well, I'm fascinated by ancient Egypt, always have been. Mummies, pyramids, the whole deal.
Great choice. Ancient Egyptians, they were obsessed with the afterlife.
I mean, their whole civilization was geared towards it, right?
Yeah.
Tombs, mummies, that whole heart-weighing ceremony.
Right. Heart weighed against a feather of truth. Imagine that.
Intense, like a cosmic performance review.
Exactly. Your heart representing your actions judged against, like, ultimate truth. Pretty heavy stuff.
So we've got the Egyptians meticulously prepping for the afterlife. What about the ancient Greeks? They had that whole mythology about the underworld, right?
Oh, yeah. The journey to the underworld, ruled by Hades. You've got the river Styx, the ferryman Charon, all very dramatic.
Sounds like a movie, right? And there are different realms down there, like Elysium, Tartarus.
Exactly. Elysium for the good, Tartarus for, no, not so good.
Sounds kind of familiar, right? And heroes could even visit the underworld, like in the Odyssey.
Yeah. So not just a passive journey, but potential for interaction with the realm of the dead.
Okay, so we've got meticulous Egyptians and journey-focused Greeks. What's next on our afterlife adventure?
Well, I think it's time we broadened our horizons even further and looked at some of the diverse beliefs within world religions.
Sounds good, but we'll have to save that for part 2.
All right, so world religions, huge topic, right?
Yeah.
Where should we even start?
I know, right? It's like every religion has its own take on the afterlife. What about Islam? They've got some pretty intense descriptions of paradise and hell, right?
Yeah, definitely. Jannah and Jahannam, those are the names. And there's that bridge over hell as Sirat.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Like, if you're righteous, you cross it, but if you're not, well...
Down you go. It's a powerful image for
Yeah.
that. And it speaks to this broader idea in Islam of, like, actions having consequences.
Right. It's not just about believing the right things. It's about how you live.
Exactly.
Oh.
Okay, so moving on, what about Christianity? Huge range of denominations there,
But judgment is a pretty big theme, right? Like, what
Yeah.
you do in this life matters for what happens after.
yeah, resurrection and judgment, pretty central concepts. Okay, now, Jewish tradition is interesting. They've got this idea of Sheol.
Sure. I'm not familiar with that one.
So it's not heaven or hell, but more like a shadowy realm for all the dead. Not necessarily punishment, but kind of a neutral state.
Huh. Okay, so not a paradise, but not fire and brimstone either.
Right. And then in later Jewish thought, you've got the Olam Haba, the world to come, more of a messianic age.
Oh, interesting. So like a time of renewal, resurrection, that kind of...
Exactly. So even within one tradition, you see how beliefs evolve, get more complex.
Okay, so we've got Islamic paradise, Christian judgment, the Jewish Sheol. It's fascinating how different these conceptions are. Makes you wonder, what about other cultures? I mean, we touched on ancient Egypt and Greece, but what about, like, Asia or African traditions?
Tons to explore there. But before we go global, I think it's time for a shift in perspective.
Yeah.
How about we talk about how people actually try to investigate afterlife claims?
Ooh, okay, yeah. Like, can we actually prove any of this stuff? This is where it gets really interesting.
Right. So you've got parapsychology, the study of like psychic phenomena, trying to do it scientifically.
Right. And then there are mediums, people who claim to talk to the dead. Always a bit skeptical of that, but hey.
Skepticism is healthy.
Yeah.
But then you've got near-death experiences, NDEs, people
Huh.
who almost die and report similar experiences.
Yeah. Like seeing a light, feeling peace, meeting deceased loved ones. Is that stuff real?
Well, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is how consistent some of those NDE reports are.
Right. Like you hear similar stories from people all over the world. Does that mean it's proof of an afterlife?
Well, some people think so, but scientists are cautious. Could it just be the brain's response to trauma, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Hard to separate the subjective experience from like what's actually happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even if science can't fully explain it, NDEs can be really meaningful for people who experience them.
Okay, so we've got Islamic and Christian beliefs, we've got the Jewish concept of Sheol, and we've dipped our toes into the mysterious world of near-death experiences. Where do we go from here?
Well, how about we finally explore those fascinating beliefs from Asia and Africa that you mentioned earlier? I think it's time we went global.
Okay, so we're ready to go global, right? Like we've barely scratched the surface of afterlife beliefs around the world.
Right. So much to explore. Where should we even start? Asia, Africa.
You know what I've always wondered about? The Norse afterlife. You know, Vikings, Valhalla, all that. What
Uh-huh.
do they believe?
Ah, yes. Norse mythology. Super interesting. So Valhalla, you've got Odin ruling over this grand hall.
It was where warriors who die in battle go, right?
Well, half all of them. It's a
Huh.
warrior's paradise. Feasting, fighting, getting ready for Ragnarok, the end of the world.
Wow, intense. So, not exactly a peaceful afterlife for those guys, but what about the other half?
They go to Folkvanger, this beautiful meadow ruled by Freya, and then there's Hell, the underworld.
Ruled by the goddess Hel, right?
Yep. Not necessarily punishment, but, kind of cold and gloomy.
Okay, so even in the Norse afterlife, you've got different realms for different souls. What about East Asian religions? Like, what about Taoism?
Yeah.
They're all about harmony with nature, right?
Yeah, and that extends to their view of death. Taoism sees life as an illusion, death as a transformation,
Transformation into what?
immortality.
Mm.
They believe that if you live a virtuous life in harmony with the Tao, your soul can become immortal.
Wow, so death isn't something to fear. It's like the next step in this ongoing cycle.
Exactly. Really different perspective, right?
Yeah, totally. Okay, now, Africa. Huge continent, tons of different cultures. Are there any, like, common themes in their afterlife beliefs?
Well, yeah, one big one is ancestor veneration.
Yeah.
Super important across many African cultures.
So it's not so much about going to a specific heaven or hell, but about staying connected to those who've passed on.
Right. Respecting the ancestors, asking for their guidance, their protection. It's about maintaining those bonds.
And didn't some African cultures believe in reincarnation too?
Yeah, some do. But it's not always about coming back as a human. Could be reborn to the same family line, or even as an animal.
Wow, so many possibilities. Okay, we've covered ancient Egypt, Norse mythology, Taoism, African traditions, all these different ideas about what happens after we die. It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. And we've only just scratched the surface, really. But what's your big takeaway from all this?
Honestly, it's that the afterlife is ultimately a mystery. We can explore these beliefs, learn from them, but we don't have any definitive proof, right?
Right. And maybe that's okay. Maybe the point isn't to find the one right answer, but to grapple with the mystery,
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. So instead of trying to prove or disprove anything, maybe the best approach is to reflect on what these beliefs tell us about how we want to live now.
Exactly. If we think about what we believe happens after death, it might actually change how we live before death.
Makes sense. So listeners, I encourage you to keep exploring this topic, read more, talk to people from different cultures, keep asking those big questions.
Because ultimately, this is a journey we all take, right? Exploring these big ideas can help us find meaning, purpose, maybe even some comfort in the face of the unknown.
Well said. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive, but thanks for joining us on this exploration of the afterlife. Until next time.